Hi, welcome to SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. It's week 15 in the NFL. We are talking with Chris Andrews from AgainstTheNumber.com. It's a Friday afternoon, and we are going to get some thoughts from him on possible betting value, late betting value at this point in the week on some games from NFL Week 15. Chris Andrews, a lot of interesting situations. We got the Pats and Green Bay starting to win and cover again. We got some teams looking like they're in absolute shambles, like Atlanta and Miami, and of course we've got Andy Dalton going down for Cincinnati. What's the first NFL game you'd like to bring to our attention?
Well, one you didn't bring up, Peter. I got the Baltimore Ravens over the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay, yeah, Kansas City is definitely one of the interesting teams. They've been an absolute ATS machine over the past 2 months. Although last week they did get a win, almost lost, and did lose ATS. So here is a big road favorite. You like Baltimore?
I do like Baltimore. If you look at Kansas City, they had covered 6 in a row. Now they went into last week's game. And I know there was a lot of weather in that game that probably kept the score down, but still they got played all the way till the end against San Diego, had a tremendous chance to tie the game with a touchdown. And a lot of times when you see that, the team on the big winning streak, then all of a sudden they lose a game against the spread. They lose a game against the spread.
Right.
A lot of times they're vulnerable to lose that next game straight up. It's like the wobble theory. You wobble once and then you finally tip over. And I'm not sure they actually tip over in this game and lose the game straight up. But if you look at Baltimore, and I know they didn't play well last week against Seattle. And people tend to just realize or to remember that last game that they saw. That's what stands out in their mind. So they lost 35-6 last week against Seattle. But before that, I know they've had a lot of injuries, but they have played teams very tough. They lost by 2 to Miami. They beat Cleveland in that blocked field goal game that even if they would have lost, they would have only lost by 3. They beat St. Louis the week before that. Played Jacksonville tough. They lost by 2. Not that that's the greatest thing in the world. Week before that, beat San Diego. So they really have been in every game and played very close games, played fairly well. I think a lot of that is attributed to John Harbaugh, who I believe is one of the best coaches in the NFL, and I think he'll get the most out of this team. I don't think they'll limp to the finish in their last 2 games. I just don't think that. I think they play very hard here. You're getting a touchdown against a good Kansas City team, but I'm not sure they deserve to be a 7-point favorite over virtually anybody in the NFL. I'm going to take the +7. I think there's a lot of value there.
All right, I've picked against KC a few times over the past few weeks, and on YouTube, the KC fans have excoriated me for that. They were mostly right. Last week, though, they would have been wrong, and I was seeing 7.5 earlier in the week. Now I'm seeing 6.5 or 7, mostly
Right.
7s, but I'm definitely seeing a 6.5 at the Chris book. So you might be onto something there, taking Baltimore at +7. Chris Andrews, what's the second NFL game you find interesting right now?
Well, this game, unfortunately, I'm going with a lot of the public, but I think the wise guys are on this game too, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers over the Denver Broncos. I think Brock Osweiler, we really thought highly of him as he started out and replaced Peyton Manning, and he did play well. I think one of the things that made him play well was the fact that the running game suddenly was revived for Denver. And part of that was that you had safeties playing back a little further as they faced Osweiler, more so than they did against Peyton Manning, who obviously has had some arm problems. Now, all of a sudden, people have realized Osweiler does not have a great deep threat to himself either. Those safeties are back up near the line of scrimmage, and they're stopping the run and clogging up some of those shallow passing lanes that Osweiler likes to use. The Steelers, defensively, you can exploit them with a long pass. And Brock Osweiler in Denver right now with this offense, they are not built to capitalize, excuse me, on that Steeler weakness. So that's not going to happen. On the other side of the football, listen, we could talk about Tom Brady, Cam Newton, Russell Wilson. They're all playing some great ball. Right now, nobody in the NFL is playing better than Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
Part of that is some of the weapons he has around him between Brown and just all that whole mass of receiving core. He has a lot of weapons, and I think this guy right now can light it up as well as anybody in the NFL. And I know they're playing a very, very tough defense in Denver. I'm not saying he lights it up against Denver. I don't think that's the case, but I do think he will score enough points to cover this number, largely because I don't think Denver's going to put that much on the board themselves. I laid 6 earlier in the week. I know it's going up to 6.5, even some 7, but I think if you could lay 6.5, that still represents good value on the Steelers.
Yeah, very curious line to start the week. The huge Denver defense against the huge Pittsburgh offense. Right now, it's mostly 6.5 market wide. Chris Andrews from AgainstTheNumber.com. Thanks so much once again, and we'll talk to you next week for NFL Week 16.
Thank you, Peter.